Finally, at the age of 78, Barry Gibb reveals John Lennon's true identity. Barry Allen Trompton Gibb came into this world in Douglas, Isle of Man, on September 1, 1946. Barry was born into a working-class family and spent his childhood between Manchester, England, and Redcliffe, Queensland, Australia, the latter of which would lay the groundwork for his musical destiny. Barry had a remarkable talent for melody and lyrics at an early age, and he frequently collaborated on musical projects with his brothers Robin and Maurice, with whom he had an almost psychic relationship. Barry Gibb, as lead singer and primary songwriter for the Bee Gees, became widely recognized as a symbol of groundbreaking pop music, particularly during the disco era of the 1970s. The sound of the band was defined by his distinctive falsetto voice. "Stayin' Alive," "Night Fever," "How Deep Is Your Love," and "More Than a Woman," among the Bee Gees' most famous songs, were all written by him. Not only did these songs rule the charts, but they also encapsulated the essence of that time with unparalleled skill, becoming the beating heart of an entire generation. Beyond his time with the Bee Gees, Barry was a prolific and brilliant songwriter. Barbara Streisand, Dionne Warwick, Kenny Rogers, Dolly Parton, and Island in the Stream were just a few of the famous performers whose songs he wrote or produced that reached the top of the charts. His ability to write songs in a variety of styles, including pop, soul, and country, solidified his place in history as a top songwriter in the industry. Barry was pivotal to the group's success, not only as the lead singer, known for his distinctive tremolo and falsetto, but also as the primary composer and arranger. Hits like "To Love Somebody," "How Can You Mend a Broken Heart," and "Words" demonstrated his talent as a songwriter by expressing profound feelings via music and lyrics. He helped catapult the Bee Gees to international fame in the late 1970s with his high-pitched falsetto, which would go on to become the signature sound of the disco period, with their 40 million record sales, an indelible mark on music history. The Bee Gees were propelled to worldwide superstardom thanks to their contribution to the Saturday Night Fever soundtrack. This victory was largely due to Barry's innovative leadership. The Bee Gees are among the all-time best-selling musicians, with records selling over 220 million copies worldwide. In addition to his commercial success, Barry's impact was felt by the innumerable musicians he guided and encouraged throughout the years. He had a remarkable talent for writing enduring tunes, which he could do in a flash, but which were always rich with heartfelt sentiment and profound lyrics. His ferocious work ethic and obsession with excellence were other hallmarks of his personality, features that allowed the Bee Gees to remain popular for a long time in the music industry. Tragic events have impacted Barry Gibb's life despite his enormous celebrity. Barry is the last surviving sibling of the Gibb family. His brothers Andy died in 1988, Maurice in 2003, and Robin in 2012. He was profoundly saddened by their passing, and he has been open about the sadness of dying without the brothers he had so much magic with. Barry, however, has not gone into seclusion, but has instead faithfully continued to perform and create music, thus continuing the Bee Gees' legacy. The more reflective side of his musicianship was on display on his 2016 solo album On the Now, which exposed the emotional burden he bears as a storyteller and survivor. While paying tribute to his brothers through his music, he frequently comments on the highs and lows of his journey in interviews, highlighting the special connection he had with them. Barry Gibb has gotten a ton of awards and praise for all the music he's done. In 2002, he was made a Commander of the Order of the British Empire, CBE, and in 2018, Prince Charles knighted him for his charitable and musical contributions, succeeding to the title of Sir Barry Gibb. Along with being a member of the Bee Gees, he has also been inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice for his work as a songwriter. Even though they are renowned, these awards don't even come close to capturing Barry's enormous cultural influence. His legacy lives on as innumerable musicians sample, cover, or otherwise draw inspiration from his music. There have been significant love moments and enduring family commitments in Barry Gibb's private life. He wed Maureen Bates, a woman he met when his music career was just starting out in his first marriage. The couple tied the knot on August 27, 1966, at the tender age of 19, a time when Barry, along with his brothers Robin and Maurice, was still navigating the difficulties of stardom as a member of the Bee Gees. Their marriage happened at a pivotal point in his life, right before the Bee Gees became famous all over the world. The couple's hopes for the future were dashed when they tied the knot, but they eventually broke up due to the stresses of a musician's career and their own differences. After a short period of cohabitation, they decided to split up, and their marriage was formally dissolved in July 1970, following nearly 4 years of marriage. Despite the brief duration of the relationship, it was a formative experience for Gibb as he entered adulthood. Shortly after his divorce, fate brought the lady, who would end up being Barry Gibb's longtime girlfriend, into his life, marking the beginning of a new chapter. Barry met Linda Gray, a former Miss Edinburgh and a stunning beauty with a soothing and encouraging demeanor, while filming an edition of Top of the Pops in London, the famous BBC music show that at the time featured the biggest stars of the decade. Their relationship flourished rapidly due to the instant connection between them. In a small ceremony that took place on September 1, 1970, Barry's 24th birthday, the pair tied the knot, commencing a strong and lasting relationship. Barry and Linda's marriage was different from his first. It was a strong, loving connection that has endured for more than half a century. Barry and Linda Gibb are quite proud of their enormous family. They have 5 children between the two of them. Stephen Gibb, their firstborn son, who was born in 1973, continued his father's musical career. Stephen has played guitar for a number of bands, including Black Label Society, and is very skilled. Ashley, Travis, Michael, and Alexandra, Barry's other children, may have gone their separate ways, but they are all very close as a family because to their parents' long marriage. In his older years, Barry finds joy and purpose in his 7 grandchildren, whom he has lovingly embraced as his roles as a father and grandfather. Family and personal ties have always been very important to Barry Gibb, even though he has been in the spotlight for a long time and faces the expectations of celebrity. Barry has deep links to his chosen country and his homeland, in addition to his family duties. While growing up in Manchester, England, Isle of Man native and Bee Gees frontman Barry Gibb moved to the U.S. in 1974 and has made it his home ever since. The fact that he and his wife Linda became naturalized citizens in 2009 is indicative of how deeply rooted they are in American culture. But they embraced their multiple identities and background by choosing to keep their British citizenship as well. Gibb maintains a strong emotional connection to the United Kingdom and makes regular visits despite spending the majority of his time in the United States. He also owns property there. Gibbs bought a famous house in the U.S. that had strong musical ties, which was one of the most remarkable things about his residence there. Gibb and his wife bought the Hendersonville, Tennessee, home of country music greats Johnny Cash and June Carter Cash. In January 2006, Gibb dreamed of turning the old home into a sanctuary for artists and songwriters, inspired by Johnny Cash, whom he had adored for a long time, a venue for the celebration of musical traditions and the creation of new ones. On April 10, 2007, when the house was being renovated, a tragic fire broke out. Tragically, Gibb's ambitions for the retreat were dashed when a fire, thought to have begun accidentally, tore the house to ruins. The ancient house's history and enchantment were irreplaceable. Yet a new house was built on the site in the end. The Gibb family sold the property in 2014, a bittersweet chapter that they closed with dignity and gratitude for the memories it had held. Despite his many life changes, marriages, having children, moving, and real estate ventures, Barry Gibb has never wavered from his commitment to love, devotion, and creativity. Many in the entertainment world consider his relationship with Linda Gray to be the most successful and stable of all time. His unwavering commitment to his loved ones is just as defining of his legacy as his musical accomplishments. Being in his late 70s, the last remaining member of the famed Bee Gees, Barry Gibb, has started to think more freely and honestly about the relationships, events, and people that had an impact on his life and fame. The mysterious and legendary John Lennon and Gibb's private conversations and ideas on the Beatles have long been a topic of fascination and speculation. The real nature of the Bee Gees and the Beatles' relationship has long been a mystery to fans and historians of music. Barry Gibb has finally decided to speak openly about his thoughts on John Lennon, a man who influenced the cultural revolution of the 1960s as much as anyone else in history, after years of courteous silence. This is despite the fact that both groups were musical heavyweights during overlapping periods, but their public personas and musical careers appeared to be in separate orbits. Barry came up about how his infatuation for John Lennon predates their first encounter. During his teenage years in the early 1960s, Barry, Robin, and Morris were profoundly impacted by the groundbreaking sound and intense energy of the Beatles. Hearing "Please, Please Me" and "She Loves You" for the first time was an exciting sensation, according to Gibb. The harmonies and melodies weren't the only parts that drew him in. It was the spirit, the candor, and the daring inventiveness that were Lennon's. Barry came clean about the fact that Lennon was more than a rock star to him. For many, he represented liberation in the arts and societal change. Even though they were famous musicians, the Bee Gees still looked up to the Beatles at first. At a London music industry party in the late 1960s, Barry recalled feeling anxious when he initially encountered Lennon. Gibb claims that the moment Lennon entered the room, his aura became contagious and everyone took note. It wasn't merely Lennon's presence, though, that stood out to Barry. It was his astute mind and his kind, charming sense of humor. While Lennon was known for his piercing humor and rebellion in public, he could be incredibly kind and reflective when they were solo. Leonardo da Vinci's remark about the Bee Gees' vocal blend, which he recalled as beautifully strange, lingered in Barry's mind for decades. As time has passed, Gibb claimed that he frequently pondered what Lennon truly thought of the Bee Gees' metamorphosis as their reputation surged in the 1970s. Due to the release of Saturday Night Fever and their dominance of the disco era. Although some critics wrote off disco as a passing trend in the music industry, Barry had a sneaking suspicion that fellow trailblazer John Lennon valued their capacity to adapt and create. Although Gibb wanted to ask Lennon directly, he never had the chance. However, via subsequent conversations with Lennon's acquaintances, he discovered that John had secretly appreciated the Bee Gees' songwriting, especially their talent for penning singles that resonated so deeply with listeners. Still, Gibb did not deny the nuanced emotional connection that existed between the two factions. Even when he's not cutting in public, John Lennon's negative remarks about the Bee Gees in a radio interview hurt Barry badly. But with the passage of time and his own growth, Barry can see those comments in a different light. He understands that Lennon utilized irony and sarcasm as defense mechanisms while battling his own demons. I believe that on occasion John would push people away before they could approach him, because he had his demons, as Barry put it. Barry didn't have any ill will against Lennon. On the contrary, he showed profound empathy for the artist's battles with shame, self-discovery, and emotional anguish. One of the most moving things that Barry revealed concerned his reaction to hearing the terrible news of John Lennon's death in December 1980. The news occurred while Gibb was in a Miami studio, he recalled. According to him, it seemed as if time stood still. A cloud seemed to have dropped from the sky. Tragically, Barry lost more than just a peer when John Lennon was assassinated. He lost a cultural giant whose words had inspired optimism, questioned authority, and given purpose to a whole generation. Barry acknowledged that he sobbed that night, mourning for the loss of Lennon and the millions of people who had trusted him to bring order to an otherwise chaotic world. After all these years, Barry Gibb has decided he has had enough of the cautious civility that characterizes celebrity memories. Long after the music and memories of his youth have faded, this 78-year-old man describes John Lennon as a man, flawed, clever, courageous, and painfully human, rather than a mythical figure. John Lennon was, in Barry's opinion, a genius of our time, and I'm thankful that our paths touched, however briefly. He urged everyone to be more reflective, to feel more deeply, and to keep asking questions. Lastly, and most poignantly, Barry admits that Lennon's frankness motivated him to take the Bee Gees in a different path. I decided to quit attempting to satisfy everyone after my conversation with John. At that moment, it hit me. The music had to be authentic. At least it needed to have some personal significance for me. By coming clean about his feelings for John Lennon, Barry Gibb has provided more than simply a tribute. He has also given fans a unique look into his own adoration. A creative person paying tribute to another via openness, honesty, and the wisdom that comes with age.